So, end of the season, I still want to know why we, as a majority, don't consider the play in the playoffs. Outside of the NBA not officially doing it, meaning Adam Silver and the decision makers over there, why don't we consider it a part of the playoffs? That's my question.
Because it's not marketed as such.
I feel
Because it's new.
I said outside of the NBA and outside of that's Adam Silver though.
But even still, that I think that directly correlates to just how people look at it. So since they're not directly saying that it's the playoffs, that makes it not the playoffs. I consider it the playoffs. Kyrie had a playoff record last night, starting 11-11, or whatever. But it's the playoffs, man. It's a wild card, and that's what we said last year should have been called. That's what we're saying this year it should be called. So Adam Silver, when you go to your owners meeting,
governors
meeting, owner, yeah.
I heard it said somewhere.
Just discuss marketing it as the wild card because it's the playoffs.
No, for sure. It's definitely the playoffs, and it was playoff intensity last night in those two games.
For sure.
And with that being said, I'm John W.
It's Fresh X.
And it's the Hoopers afternoon session. So, two playing games last night. We had the Brooklyn Nets versus Cleveland Cavaliers and the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the LA Clippers. Minnesota won their game by 4 points, and the Brooklyn Nets also came away with a 2-possession win as well. I want to start with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell definitely led the way offensively. Anthony Edwards going for 30, and D'Lo had, 24, 26? 29, my bad. 29.
5 and 6, actually.
And I just want to say in that second.
3 steals.
3 steals. D'Angelo Russell, I want to say two things. I want to say something kind of, not necessarily negative, but a little criticism. Maybe some people that watch Minnesota can maybe fill me in on this. But I feel like, one, D'Angelo Russell is too creative of a playmaker to play as a slow pace as he play. Maybe he's trying not to leave his teammates behind him on fast breaks a lot of times, but I feel like he can play it at a faster pace.
Yeah, I think he could speed it up, but at the same time, I don't think he's athletic. I think you're thinking he's athletic than he is.
But see, that's my thing.
And then especially he was a little more athletic, but he's been through his injuries.
You're right. But
so there's definitely times where I think he could push the pace.
I thought about that. And that was my first, he isn't that fast. That was my first thought. But then I thought about Jason Kidd. I also thought about Jason Kidd. Nobody ever talked about
it.
Was he? Yeah. Was he fast while he was dribbling the ball, or was he fast?
He had some good speed on him.
While he dribbling the ball, or while he fast?
I would say he's fast. I'll say Jason Kidd is fast. But either way, I agree with your point, though. I do think he could push the pace better.
And my second point,
I agree with that.
Going back to last night, he controlled that second half phenomenally, being a creative playmaker and scorer, knocking down big shots, especially out of pick and roll. He's also one of those players that takes advantage of that drop coverage on picks because when the big man don't want to switch up out of there.
D'Angelo Russell is a player, number 2 pick in the draft, so obviously he came into the league with some high expectations on him. He is a player that looks like a player that takes over those kind of games. You know what I mean? Like I saw the 3 he hit. I didn't watch the game. I went back and watched the highlights or whatever. I just watched it all over. I watched the Brooklyn game, and then that game was too late for me. But I went back and watched the game, what I watched of it, and that shot that he took to get him the lead in the fourth quarter, you can see him really give me the ball. He really wanted the ball to get that shot. So we talked about it on the show on Nothing But Net Radio. Come on every Monday at 3:00. We talked about him being that player for them and him wanting those moments. And even though he hasn't done it on the biggest level as far as the playoffs, he's had his moments where that's why they looked to him that he was, especially at certain points in the season. I haven't looked at the end of the year, but he was at the top of all of those fourth quarter scoring numbers that you want to see for those type of players. So he got that in him. And then, Ant was doing what Atlanta did. So
I also think too as well that he was definitely healthier in the second half of the season because he was definitely definitely a part of a lot of that surge.
That's my main issue. He's always
always hurt.
He gotta be available.
But over to Anthony Edwards, he had 30 points in the game. hit some really big shots for him as well. Took command of the game. I'm already on record of saying, like, I don't care how this season ends. From this moment on, everything should be done with Anthony Edwards in mind.
I think it kind of already is.
Like, but he scores 30, and this is his first time. I know, second year in the league, but it's his first time with some playoff feels and vibes. How do you think he fared, like, just in the game like that, honestly, being able to drop 30? Like, and his team kind of needed it.
Yeah, they kind of needed it because, it was a close game throughout.
This cat playing like trash.
Yeah, and he was also right there with D'Angelo Russell in that fourth quarter, giving them some big buckets. So,
Absolutely.
he went number one in the draft for a reason.
Yep.
We all know the high expectations he have of himself.
Yep.
And he said he's gonna be in the MVP conversation next year. That's what he said. So
I like it.
I like seeing players do what he did, and now you get to go to the next round and you play Memphis and you see it expand. But I like seeing young players have these big moments early in their career,
right.
Especially those higher picks, because that's why they went and at that position. So
right, sure.
And like he was ready for it. Like it was another game. They was at home. I feel like playing at home helped. Having the home crowd, when they did go on runs, be there to give them more energy. I think that played a good part in Minnesota getting the win. But I think they got one of those players, Anthony Edwards, and he want to put his name in the conversation as one of the. I think next year he is open for who's the top shooting guard in the league. I'm pretty sure we will all say Devin Booker today. You got some people that probably say Donovan Mitchell.
I think Jaylen Brown should be in that discussion.
But it's open.
No, he is open.
And Anthony Edwards is trying to get in the conversation.
No,
way too. I'm not saying he's in there yet, but he's trying to get.
I think he has a chance next year, definitely, if he can, just keep expanding on his offensive game, play defense consistently next year as well. But we're talking about this year.
Yeah, he's usually engaged, and then he was having a really good season. And he went through a real big slump, probably about a month or so ago. But overall, he had a good year. He was in conversation to be an All-Star this year. Minnesota didn't deserve 2 All-Stars, but he was in conversation.
They got All-Stars too?
Yeah, Cat was All-Star.
Well, speaking of Cat, I'll tell you, found out last night, didn't really have his best game. And in games like this, where like we would have liked to see just Cat go even for his regular season numbers of 24-12, 25-12. I feel like these are the games that keep him out of the conversation with Jokic and Embiid. And of course, we can all go back and say what he could have done to play better in that game. But going up against a defensive team like Memphis with players like Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson, who's going to see a lot of double and triple teams, what does he need to do to play better just in the next round?
Yeah, and it's it's one game. You're entitled to a bad game, so I'm not going to get on too much about one bad game, but you do want to see Cat show up. And fouling out isn't going to get it done.
Right.
But, when you go against those two, because now you're going against Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams. Steven Adams is a formidable, defender. Jaren Jackson's in the defensive player of the year conversation. Right. So throwing both of them matches, you just got to come in prepared. They're about to. I always say the playoffs are different because now you about to get scouted like you haven't been scouted. He's been in the playoff once, but not really as the top dog. I would say they probably was more looking at Jimmy Butler, but now the team is going to really key in on taking you out of your game. So Cat got to get to his spots, get to your spots, get where he feels comfortable at to be able to get those buckets. And overall, he just got to give energy because they need those 20 out of him. But when you have Ant and you have D'Lo who both can go for 30, the most you need out of Cat is at least getting the effort of 10, 15 rebounds. If the bucket's not going to be there, if you're going to be 11, 15, 16 points, which I think he got to step it up from that too. But if he have a game, especially because I got to respect Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson. I don't respect him to average 35 on them. Like both of them going at him, I don't respect him to average 30. But if he can average 20, like even 19 and 11, 12, 13 rebounds.
And the funny thing about the matchup is individually, they're he's a mismatch for both of them.
Yeah, because
he's quicker than Steven Adams, and he's bigger and stronger than Jaren Jackson.
Both of them guards.
But at the same time, he's gonna be in a cage.
One go out, the other one guard, the other one go, and they both go.
And at the same time, that's the funny part about that because Cat is like the one player, even more so than Joel Embiid and Jokic. He's a mismatch against a lot of teams, even teams with size.
Yeah.
Just with his skill set and how he plays.
But this is what the playoffs is for. He wants to be in that conversation with those players. So, despite what I am saying about them,
I believe he can do some numbers.
That this is one of those series where you just get your points. Period. And I said 19. I actually take that back. I don't want to see him average 25. I'll take it back because even if you playing tough, they playing you tough. That's when you work and get to your moves. You get to the free throw line. You have those ugly games, but you still produce what your team needs you to produce, and that's why you the top dog.
And before we move over to Brooklyn and
Anthony Edwards, a top dog. Now it's his team.
It's his team. Before we move over to Brooklyn and Cleveland, I know everybody feels a way about Minnesota celebrating last night after the win. I know some of it is because we feel a way about Patrick Beverly. But if you take that out of the equation, do you really have a problem with Minnesota celebrating?
No, because for one, they won. So when you win,
you can do what you want.
And this is the first time they've been in the playoffs in a couple of years. This is the first time this group has made it together.
Right.
And I feel like it was let's be real. A lot of people weren't picking them to win the game, even though they had a better record, even though they were at home. Even I said I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers could win. Paul George was back. Norman Powell was back. Tyronn Lue was a good coach. Clippers just had some rhythm. You know, a lot of people were picking the Clippers to win that game. Absolutely. So you go out and you win. Especially they took the game, you know, because the Clippers had their leads at points in the game. They had the lead in the fourth quarter, and they took it and were able to prevail with such a young team. Second-year player scoring 30. Cat's been in the league 7 years. You know, he's a mini vet. He's still kind of young though because of how young you come into the league nowadays. It was a good win for them. It was probably something that they proved to themselves. Like obviously you're gonna look at that and you're like, oh, don't celebrate like you win the championship. But it's okay to celebrate your wins and an accomplishment.
Right.
Because who picked Minnesota to make the playoffs coming to the season? Unlike the other team that's about to make it, they have an over 500 record. So they really they
belong there.
Yeah, they belong. They earned their playoff. They earned their playoffs. So they playoff spot. So. Not mad at the Clippers at all. I mean, not mad at the Timberwolves at all for celebrating that win.
All right. But like I said, they got Memphis in the first round.
Good vibes for Minnesota, even though Minnesota's a terrible place, but the team is good.
Like I said, they got grit, so they got to match up with the Grizzlies. We'll get into that at some point, hopefully before the matchup starts. Like I said, shout out to Minnesota for making the playoffs for the first time. I think it's like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it's about 5.
Third time in 18 years. So shout out to this group for pushing. Like say they were over 500. This wasn't a fluke playoff.
Yeah, exactly.
This wasn't a fluke playoff preparing. So shout out to them. Now over to the other game. Like I said, Brooklyn Nets versus Cleveland Cavaliers. Well, Brooklyn didn't they were up big for most of the game, but they ended up winning by 6.
Yeah,
I already said however it works, Kyrie and Darius Garland need to get on the phone together. So Garland can pick up some tricks of the trade from Kyrie because I feel like Kyrie can teach him a lot. Especially just looking at that game last night, like Darius Garland did. He got 34 on 24 shots, even making some Kyrie-esque layups. But I think for the most part, we all expected Brooklyn to win this game, except Kenneth over that competitive hedge podcast. I don't know why he picked Cleveland anyway. But
he picked Cleveland.
Yeah, he picked Cleveland yesterday. He didn't bet on them, but he did pick Cleveland to win.
It's who you bet on, not who you pick.
But just looking at this Brooklyn team, of course, I think you expected this win.
Yeah.
But how good of a win was this? We've seen Bruce Brown really kind of, role expanding, hitting some jump shots, making decisions off the pick and roll. Kyrie and KD playmaking. You say Kyrie didn't miss a shot in the first half. They didn't get anything out of Seth, who's coming off injury.
Yeah, one shot he made, he stepped out of bounds before the shot.
But how did Brooklyn look in this game?
Yeah. What I've been seeing a lot of people say, they look focused to me. What I've been seeing a lot of people say is, oh, they barely beat this team, and et cetera, et cetera. Despite what in the league, I watched this whole game. We watched this whole game. They were in control the whole game. Never was down.
Right.
They got up to as much as 24, I think, 22. But Cleveland continued to make runs. Even when they got it to 20, they always got it back down to 14. So it wasn't surprising to me that they made another push. I think they got as close as 7, 6. It wasn't surprising me that they made that extra push. But every time they got to 6, there was another 3. And then the fourth, KD hit the 3. Then the two middies pull it away or whatever. Right. So I thought it was a good win overall. Bruce Brown almost got a triple-double. Nick Claxton looked good on the court.
Yeah.
Drummond was engaged. Kyrie didn't miss a shot in the first half.
He missed shots in the fourth quarter.
Right. KD, he didn't even take a shot at the beginning because they really didn't need him to. And then, I think he missed 2 shots in the first half. Right. So he turned it up in the fourth quarter, when they needed him to turn it up in the fourth quarter. But throughout the game, he was just passing the ball and playing really good defense. I think he had 4 blocks. 11 assists. Yeah. He was really distributed because they kept leaving Bruce Brown open in the middle off that pick and roll. They kept just hitting him, right. And he was making the bucket, making layups, or he was hitting people on the pass. Like I said, he almost got a triple-double. They played good defense overall, but the main thing was like KD looked good on the inside, on help defense, and he made a couple stops just overall, one-on-ones.
It's funny that he almost got a triple-double because he almost got a triple-double at the end of the season.
Who?
Bruce Brown. Yeah, KD said he didn't get it because he was talking about it in the huddle.
Yeah, because he was talking about triple-double.
Yeah.
Like 18-9, 18-9 and 8 last night. Like
that's what you want from Bruce Brown.
Yeah, he almost got it.
Give it night.
Yeah, and now they're going to their matchup against Boston. It'll be interesting to see how they play them because I don't think they're going to do some things a little bit different. But Cleveland was in a zone overall throughout the night, right. And they just killed it.
No, right. And once Brooklyn, adjusted to that and putting Bruce Brown in the middle instead of Andre Drummond with Nick Claxton in the dunker spot, that definitely changed the whole offense for them. But just to speak on Kyrie and KD, because I don't know if people know, so they were playmaking. Their playmaking was really effective last night.
Yeah,
and I know
12 assists.
That was one of the things that people didn't know, how were they going to get others involved in the game, or if they were going to be, playmake for others, which I think they did masterfully last night. And I think that's a part of both of their games that doesn't get talked about as much as it probably should.
Yeah, I believe like KD's really been on a roll the last few. Like he had 17 assists the other night, at the end of the regular season. So the ball's in their hands a lot. So it's a lot of opportunities to make a lot of plays. Kyrie's was a little bit more surprising to me because it's clear when they go to Kyrie is more so attack mode. Like he does bring the ball up and run the offense for them, but when they're half court and Kyrie get the ball, it's really more for him to create. While KD, he kind of plays within the offense or whatever. So, and then they go a lot of times where they're not really running too much offense. It just got kind of sets that they run where, they try to get Kyrie on the wing, they don't get it. You get KD on the other post on the other side. But I feel like the main thing is they're making the right passes and their teammates are making the shots for them. Nick Claxton had 13 last night, 13-9 rebounds. So Drummond had 16, I think.
Did he?
Yeah.
16 points?
Yeah, he had 16 and 8. When you said it, you made me feel like I had a question to myself. Yeah, Drummond had 16 and 8 last night.
Terrible hands. It's either his eyes or his hands. I don't know.
A little bit of both. But he's catching the passes for him right now. They making the shots. And, they distribute. But they've really been turning it up for sure.
And the goal to Cleveland, like I said, Darius Garland finished the game with 34. 15 for 24, 5 assists. I think he had 6 turnovers, though, which is still a young player in the situation. Sometimes probably got a little over his head with some of the passes. But just looking at Cleveland's overall season, I know they still have a chance to make the playoffs today. They play the winner of the Hawks and the Charlotte Hornets. But how well do you think Cleveland played last night?
Honestly, I think Brooklyn came out like extra focused.
Right.
And
I think we expected that as well.
Kyrie and KD misses 2 shots combined in a half. I mean, what can you do?
Right.
So overall, though, you get 34 out of Garland. Evan Mobley gave him 19. I thought Evan Mobley was making really good plays. I expect Mobley to average 24 next year. I think Mobley is nice.
No, he is. I think really, especially
I think really highly of Evan Mobley. I think he'll be an all-star in a couple of years. I can see him averaging 20, 24 points, 24 and 8, 9 next year. Because they're gonna go to him more. He's gonna continue to expand his offensive game. I think they're gonna let him handle the ball a little bit more. They're gonna do more with Mobley next year.
Right.
I think we're gonna see that against Atlanta. They're gonna use
especially John Collins.
I don't think
Jared Allen should be back as well on Friday.
Right. But overall, Brooklyn just came out of they gave him 40 in the first quarter. So you playing from that. the whole game. But Kevin Love gave them some good minutes last night. He had a double, 14, 13. Yeah, he had some big buckets for them. But overall, I was mainly impressed with Mobley and Garland.
Right.
Like, they weren't trying to go away.
No. And like I said, Garland finished with 34. Just the way
24 next year, Mobley.
24
for Mobley.
I feel you. But just even the way that, Garland, I know him and Kyrie didn't guard each other a lot, but when he did see Kyrie on him, he did take, he was aggressive in those moments. You like seeing that from a young point guard, especially made All-Star game this year.
Right, yeah.
And they're expecting Garland to be their lead guard for however many of the next years. Do you like seeing him take those challenges?
He definitely, first of all, I like that Kyrie not getting enough credit for guarding people, and he's really been doing it.
They weren't guarding each other.
Kyrie was guarded. He guarded him. People play pick and roll, so he got off of them. But Kyrie regarded these people, and they don't really notice until it's a marquee game. I mean, he didn't really play this year, so I get why he didn't notice this year. But he's been on a different level, focus-wise, of being a complete basketball player. And you can just see that in his assists also. I think he is more still in the mindset of scoring, because that's just ultimately he thinks nobody can guard him, so that's what he can do. But Kyrie's been getting his whole game better, and people need to notice. Stop just looking at the dribbles. But Garland, when he did see him on him, and he took the challenge. He ain't back down from him. He got in his sets. He did his moves. He wasn't afraid to shoot the ball. And Garland, his push was getting him back in the game for sure.
And so we got 2 more play-in games tonight.
Like with players, they got to guard. These dudes don't guard each other no more. They got to guard up.
So we got 2 more play-in games. We got the New Orleans Pelicans versus San Antonio Spurs, and the Atlanta Hawks versus Charlotte Hornets.
Pelicans and the Spurs should be the first game. I know that's the Midwest game, so it's later, but that ain't the. I guess the first game is kind of marquee game because more people's up for that game. So never mind. I think that's how it works. I take that back.
That's how it works. But who do you expect to win the San Antonio or New Orleans game?
I expect CJ McCollum to get like 34. So I'm going with the Pelicans. I think it's going to be a good game for CJ. I like to see Brandon Ingram have a big night also. Is DeJounte Murray playing? Yeah. DeJounte's playing. Yeah, he should be playing. So I expect him to have a really good game also. But I think the Pelicans are they got a good enough nucleus, I think, to get past the Spurs. Got Herb Jones on defense. Willie Green, shout out to him. I like that Willie Green because it looked bad for them early in the year, and I'm a big fan of Willie Green. Like, I was kind of nervous with him taking the Pelicans job. I'm not even gonna lie, because New Orleans just always is terrible, and Zion was hurt, so I'm like, he's a good coach, and it's hard to coach in those bad situations. Like, they let Lonzo go. It was just Brandon Ingram and Devontae Graham. Like, he didn't have much to work with. That's all I'm saying. And they got better. Then they made the trade for CJ McCollum, and I like that Willie Green is kind of succeeding. I can't wait to see them with Zion next year.
No, I expect that to be a really good team next year. And of course, like I said, I think
Zion, he's playing tonight.
I mean, it's stepdad. We're gonna see him this year.
Zion suiting up.
I mean, he's saying we're gonna see him. I mean, he's gonna play this game or next game.
He said we're gonna see him. He had the game. We're gonna see him.
But I think this is an intriguing game because I feel like it's 2 teams. I feel like people talk about the Spurs being a young team, but I don't think people talk about how this young team has really stuck it out through the whole season and made a playoff push this year.
Yeah, Primo, Kelly Johnson,
Vessel,
LaSalle.
That's it, right? Dejounte Murray, the All-Star. Yeah. I think Jakob Poeltl might be one of the older players on the team, and he's still pretty young. But of course, it's a pop team, so they're gonna be ready. I know you like seeing young teams like this, especially this is not a team with a bunch of lottery picks on it. So this is a team that this kind of let's play through it out mentality they're gonna already have anyway. But do you like seeing this team in this situation? I feel like everybody feel like the Spurs are 1-star player away from going to the next level.
Yeah. So I definitely think it's a good opportunity for the Spurs. This is how they like to build their players, just through these opportunities. I don't know how they're gonna do, because I definitely don't have them winning this game. And then once you get to the Clippers game, I can see them beating the Clippers. Like, I could see it happening, but I would probably take the Clippers. But I like saying like this is a good showing for DeJounte Murray as that player,
Right.
and maybe this helps them identify based off of what he's doing a player in the league that they could get and you put with him. Maybe it's Donovan Mitchell, maybe it's Rudy Gobert. Maybe you get one of those since they're trying to break them up, or maybe that's just NBA trying to break them up. But maybe the Spurs make a play on somebody. The Spurs, even though because we've known them as teams that just build through the draft and all that,
they go sign free.
You gotta give them their credit over the last. I'll say you. Let's go back 10 years. You know, they even though if it didn't work out, they did go get LaMarcus Aldridge.
They signed Richard Jefferson. I know he ended up in that Bruce Bowen role and sitting in the corner shooting threes, but
that was way before. But I'm just saying, if you're saying
after that,
just the last couple of years of being able to just even get LaMarcus Aldridge, he was really hot on
training for DeMar DeRozan.
So the Spurs have been making some moves. So if you identify who works with DeJounte Murray, honestly, because he's your best player, clearly.
I guess a stretch big, maybe.
And then Keldon Johnson is someone for the future or whatever.
Right.
You look around the people that's available. Rudy works there. He plays defense. They could, if any team could expand what he does offensively, they can give him some more skills.
Yeah.
So I like Rudy Gobert there.
I respect that.
Maybe you can get rid of those young players, package them, and you go get Bradley Beal or somebody like that. They could use it too. Yeah. Just another player to go with them. Just crazy name. I think Rudy Gobert makes the most sense.
Sure.
But I can see them, people talking about Donovan Mitchell going to New York. I can see the Spurs be like, let me go get him real quick. If he's available, who New York traded for Donovan Mitchell?
I don't know.
Spurs got some solid players.
They got a lot of solid young pieces. But like I said, over to Charlotte and Atlanta, who you got in that game?
This game,
interesting game.
I'm taking Atlanta. I was kind of going back and forth, but I expect Atlanta. I actually think Atlanta should win pretty easily. Actually, after thinking about it some more, I'm not gonna do what I've seen a lot of people do and give Atlanta the "you made it" type of season. Atlanta was picked by a lot of teams to not be in this position, just like Brooklyn was. All the heat had been on Brooklyn because they were supposed to be a championship contender, but I mean, if KD doesn't get hurt, Brooklyn was in first place. Atlanta's season's been a struggle all year, honestly. So I'm not giving them other than John Collins. He's not playing, right?
He worked out the other night, but
I don't know as of right now. John Collins is playing all right, if he's playing or not. But even still, this is the same roster that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Same coach, same best player. I'm really just tired of the excuses and want to see them hoop because I've seen Atlanta beat those good teams and then I've seen them lose to a bad team on a random day. This is when you got to lock in and be consistent. Right. Charlotte is a good team. You got LaMelo, Miles Bridges is in the most improved player conversation. LaMelo's an all-star. Terry Rozier, a really good player. PJ Washington over there. Charlotte's a good team. Atlanta's better, and they should beat them. Cleveland was a good team. Brooklyn was better. If Cleveland would have beat Brooklyn, I'd have been really surprised. Especially who's the home team? Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
They're playing at home too? I'm not giving
is it on the home team?
Yeah, I think the Hawks are the home team. I'm not giving the Hawks no excuses for losing this game. I'm not going to say they had a tough year. They did have a tough year. We signed the most players in NBA history this year because of COVID. And then a game cancellation. All that stuff happened. But the players also have been inconsistent. They've been bad on defense. We won the game. They gave Sacramento 40 at the first quarter of the game we went to. I'll never forget that. Never forgive them for giving Sacramento Kings 40 points in the first half. The Hawks got to play. The Hawks got to play like a team that came into the year expecting to be in the playoffs, like Brooklyn played. Like how Kyrie them came out focused. We're not losing this game. You're gonna go on your run because you're a good team. Like I don't expect them. I do expect them to have a lead. I expect Charlotte to make a run. Atlanta's better. Atlanta is a better team than Charlotte. It's a deeper team. Their team had the chemistry of last year. I'm not giving the Hawks no excuses.
I can respect that. Yeah, I can respect that. I also got to think the Hawks should win. Just off, like say, already being in. I know Charlotte made the play-in game last year, but the Hawks had playoff success last year going to the Eastern Conference Finals, so they already know.
And they came in the year with expectations. That's why I said what I said on the show. Like it's one thing to win when nobody thinks you win, but You got to live up to the expectations.
And just real quick before we get out here,
I do think Trey is gonna have a big game regardless.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Trey's gonna give these boys 40. Who
but
guarded him? LaMelo.
Okay, so
LaMelo got.
So okay, I guess
and
this
we
is my
seen,
question.
and yeah, we seen Trey score 50 and they lose. So
that was gonna be my question. Is it gonna be one of those 40 where he doesn't involve anybody else, or is it gonna be
I don't got an answer for you for that? And that's a real life question.
It's gonna be a 40 where it's like he got 40, but everybody ate, like, because it could go either way.
That's a real life question. He can have 40 that impact the whole game, big shots at the right moment, everybody eating. And he also have him 40 where nobody touched the ball. He the only one that shoots it, and he look good. And
he gonna get 10 assists, but ain't nobody else really.
He get 10 assists, but nobody else takes more than 10 shots. Like, it's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird. But I expect Trey to get him 40 regardless.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure we've spoken on this at some point when the play-in wild card
big 40
game was thought of, but this was because especially this year we got Minnesota with their young players, Anthony Edwards, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, like I said, LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges back in it again. How good is this for exposure for those younger players?
I think it's real good exposure, especially considering
you get a night on TV by yourself.
And you're playing a mark like Cleveland. People watched that game and got introduced to, even though he was an all-star, you got introduced to Garland and Mobley because they're playing Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Jay-Z was at the game. People watched that game. LaMelo, obviously, he draws a crowd, but Trae Young is a multiple-time all-star, led the league in assists and points, total assists and total points this year. It's going to be a draw. Playoff success. It's going to be a draw to that game. Right.
It's going to be some people.
That's why it's
going to be crazy tonight.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it actually is. So it'll be cool to see if Zion played in the game, because I think that's the game people are going to sleep on the most is the Pelicans and the Spurs. But it's still a good game. It's still going to be a good game. But this is the time for people to make a name for themselves.
So still got San Antonio on the other side with all their young players as well.
Yeah, a lot of them too. But respectfully, no marquee names. I thought DeJounte Murray was going to be an all-star, but some people saw his name. The casual person saw his name like DeJounte Murray. Let me go look him up real quick.
Right, but this is why I always say.
But this is the opportunity too.
Yeah, which is why we always say we don't kind of we don't try not to cater. Against the casual, because
that's why I said the casual to not use it disrespectfully,
because now you have a chance. Right, you got a chance to watch DeJounte Murray and Primo and Lonnie Skywalker, who might just come out and do something crazy in the air at some point in the game. Keldon Johnson as well. So, like the play, I don't think people have spoken about that enough. They're just so against the play-in tournament. Like, this is good because this is who the play-in is going to be a lot of times. It's going to be young teams who are fighting for the bottom of the playoff spots who probably slipped at the end of the year, like a Cleveland or Charlotte, who's kind of teetering right there because they don't have a full talent of roster just in certain positions and whatnot, or a team like San Antonio, who's a young team, but they got good structure. So their struggles come because they're a young team, not because they're a bad team.
Exactly. And that's the whole point of the wild card. Like we said on the show the other day, we're not talking about tanking as much because people got an opportunity. It's like, obviously, the teams that aren't trying to win. It's a couple of them that just have a roster. We know Detroit wasn't trying to win. They were playing the young players. Actually, Detroit wasn't trying to not win this year, but we knew that they were playing the young players. We knew that OKC wasn't trying to win. Outside of those two,
Orlando maybe, and even they were giving good effort a lot.
And even Orlando. I think Orlando, I don't think they would have been mad if they made the playoffs, but I don't think they weren't searching for a player in the draft. I think they're trying to make something out of the young players that they have. So I don't look at what they did as tanking, honestly. What OKC doing is tanking. They don't want to win. If the young players they going through the process that people didn't like that Philly did. If the young players they having a career year, they're gonna sit them down. They might get rid of them. Orlando was actually like, who do we got? So let's play them, and we giving them the minutes opposed to pulling players or whatever. Right. Who was the other? I said
Detroit.
Detroit was play because I don't necessarily think, because remember we asked, were they really in a full-on tank, because they have young players that they're trying to play, and you're just gonna lose with young players at times, and then Cade missed some time, but they were more so trying to see. They were more so
just bad.
Yeah, even Houston, like I didn't even look at them as tanking initially. It was just more like let's play young players, let's see what we got. Opposed to tanking is, I feel like tanking is you trying to get a draft spot. OKC is playing for draft capital. I don't think that's what Houston did this year. I don't think that's what
which is funny
Detroit did.
A lot of OKC picks are probably going to be middle of the first round picks because
but they're going
to have some lottery picks because of Houston.
But they want to be able to put them together and trade. Because now I can trade my 2 picks for your one pick. That's I would assume that's the idea. Because if not,
because I see somebody said they made a joke about them stockpiling second round picks the other day.
Right. But either way, we got way far into that. But I think that's contributing to the wild card play and being there is you got a chance to make it. And more games is more exposure for your players. There's more revenue. There's another day that these lights is open. People lost money in the pandemic. Like, you got to look at the business side of the stuff too. And it gives players the opportunity to get in the playoffs and make a name for themselves. You think, I know Minnesota probably didn't want to play in the game, but having a night where you can look at them and prove that, yeah, we really this good, I'm sure that felt good for them or whatever. So I like to play in, and it was cool to switch it up, give it something different. I mean, I feel like that just shows you're not gonna please everyone anyway, right? But everybody hated the regular season. It's predictable. What's the point of it? And now, back-to-back years, there's been teams in the play-in that we didn't think was gonna be in the play. Like we got LeBron and Steph in the play-in last year. KD is in it this year.
Like KD basically said they should think like. They should be thanking them for the play-in for real.
Yeah, because
I've gotten those matchups.
Right. So
you look at John last year.
But even from the NBA standpoint, it's like we've gotten marquee players in the play-in also because it's giving teams opportunities. I mean, you could be free falling like Brooklyn did, and now you still can be in there. Opposed to if you
don't got to rush your star players.
Because if they want to play in, they wouldn't have been in. I mean, they finished 8th, but with all the ties or whatever. But you finish 9th, it's over with. So. I like the plan. The one adjustment I think should be made is if you got a 5-game lead as a 7 seed, you shouldn't be in it. You should be exempt. The 8 plays the winner of the 9-10, and then you go from there because it's kind of stupid having a loser play a game, kind of. But if it's tight like how the East was, then I get it.
Yeah, I get that.
But like if you got a 5-game lead. You earned the 7 seed, you should be the 7. The 7 should be exempt. So now that even give you another little push because it's like, all right, we playing for the 6 or 5-game lead in the 7. So it keep everything competitive. Like, that's what people want, right? That's what they wanted, right? Is it what they want?
I don't know what people want. But no, for real though. I think we can end the show right there. Like I said.
Playing was great, man.
There'll be some good playing games tonight.
Look back in the day, people like 3-point line. Why would you do that? What we need to shoot threes for? Alley-oop, man. You throwing an alley and he dunking it. Why you got to throw it behind the back? Good old chest pass.
That's between your legs.
That's what y'all say.
Left to right.
Man, when you doing all that fancy stuff, why you doing it? They used to tell us when you go through you doing the fancy stuff. Just now that's in your workout. That's the end of the show. These people.
We get in there, right?
We want to get into it. Appreciate the viewers, except you old people that hate. I say that, but I don't want a 4-point line though. I'm gonna be that. If they add a 4-point line, I'm gonna be that guy.
Be that old man.
That's why I draw the line.
I'll be that.
But for real, appreciate the viewers. We here every Wednesday on the Off the Ball Network channel on the Facebook app. We also on our YouTube channel and our Twitter page. Go to YouTube, follow the Hoopers. Anywhere you get your podcast, Hoopers Pod, search the Hoopers Pod. And every Monday, 3 p.m. on the Dash Radio app, Nothing But Net channel. Go ahead and like that. Be on there at 3 o'clock. Got some Hoopers merch coming soon for everybody that want them. They Waffle House shirts.
Waffle House shirts.
We hear you. Waffle House shirts on the way. Don't be that old guy.
Nah, you don't be, especially not those baseball old guys.
Except if they bring the 4-point line, and we all on the same page.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm John W.
For sure.
That was the Hoopers afternoon session.